You are listening to continuing coverage of the trial of Chad Daybell from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast. Let's go back to the courtroom.
All rise. District Court's now in session. Honorable Stephen W. Boyce, Judge presiding.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. Good morning, everyone. I believe we're ready to start with additional evidence. So, Mr. Bailiff, if you would please have the jurors brought in.
All right, please.
President Jennifer, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right. Good morning, everyone. We're back on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We're continuing with the state's case in chief. Officer Stubbs is on the stand and was previously sworn. I'll note that the jurors are all presently accounted for and properly seated. The court has received the juror affirmations from each of the jurors that are here present today, indicating they've continued to follow the court's admonition as it relates to not following or looking into or investigating the case. So thank you again for returning and for following the court's instruction. I'll also just briefly address the schedule for today. We are going to go past lunch, but not until we typically break in the afternoon, and we're intending to stop sometime around 2 or 2:30 perhaps, just for reasons the court stated to counsel in a sidebar before we started. So with that, I will inquire briefly of the witness because we had the break here from the exclusionary order. Officer Stubbs, did you review any case or testimony or anything about the case since you were on the stand this afternoon?
I have not.
Okay, thanks for affirming that. I'll remind you, of course, you're still under oath for your testimony. And Mr. Wood, if you'd like to continue with direct, you may do so.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Just to recap, Detective, when we left yesterday for clarity of the record and for the jury, I believe we had spoken about your visit with Lori Vallow on November 26th.
Yes, we have.
That you were not able to locate JJ that day.
No, we were not able to.
And that you weren't able to verify his whereabouts later that day.
That is correct.
Did you in the next day help in searching Lori Vallow's apartment?
Yes, November 27th, 2019, with a search warrant, yes.
Okay, thank you. Pursuant to a search warrant. And I believe you testified yesterday that you did not locate JJ in any 3 of those apartments.
We did not.
Okay. Detective, did you have body cam on? Did you do a body cam? Let me rephrase that. Did you do a body cam walkthrough of any of those apartments?
Yes, I did on both 174 and 175.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 144.
Very well.
And a courtesy copy has been provided to court and counsel.
And Judge, my numbering may be off because I had 144 as the first contact with Lori Vallow. Am I mistaken, counsel?
That was
59.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, 59. Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 144?
I do.
What is it?
This would have been a USB drive of my documentation of apartment 175.
And did you specifically review it on that drive?
Yes, I have.
And did you initial that drive?
I did.
Is it a true and accurate representation of the body cam you recorded that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibit 144 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 144 is entered into evidence.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I publish?
You may publish.
This is the search warrant on apartment number 17.
I inquire, is the audio coming through the speakers?
It is.
Okay.
Well, I think it is. I'm not sure if it's through your mic on your computer or through the speakers. I think it was through the speakers, though.
Write it out.
175. Coming into the front door, this is the front room.
Detective, I'm going to pause it real quick. Is this the same apartment that you spoke to Lori Vallow in?
Yes, it is.
And this body cam was taken on what date?
The following day, the 27th.
Of November 2019?
Yes.
Entered. This is the damage to the door upon a no-knock entry warrant. Front door. Back of the door. Room. Here's the door jamb, front room and kitchen area. There was, on arrival, keys that had been left on the counter, a envelope from Amazon. This was on the front porch to a Lori Vallow, 565 Pioneer Road, apartment 175, Rexford, Idaho. Kitchen, pantry, half bath, garage leading to, or door leading out to the garage. This area, couches, tables, guns located in this area. Sorry, Sean. I'm going that way, Rob. Staircase going up to the second level of the whole 175. To the left at the top of the landing, it's a master bedroom, bed, a bath and closet area. Upon entering, no clothing left in this closet, shower.
Detective, we just heard you say there was no clothing left in that closet, correct?
Yes.
Was that of note to you?
It was. It made me think that the occupants, because of our day visit before, left in haste.
Like there was some electronic devices on these at one time. I can see dust imprints of what appears to be computers. Here is a printer. On this printer is a lease agreement. Looks like executed on October 1st, 2019. And it says a Lori Ravan, R-V-A-N, as the leaser. Coming out of the master bedroom, a hall adjoining a laundry room to the right. Continuing down the hall to the left, a furnace, water heater, closet. Opposite that is a bathroom. Continuing down the hall, two bedrooms. One to the south, one to the north of the hallway. This is the one to the south. A single bed, a double bed, a closet containing a couple coats, one empty box, a fan, some empty hangers, what appears to be a bedspread, and this box here that appears to have possibly winter clothes, female winter clothes inside. Continuing to the other bedroom, we have, this is the one to the north. We have a bed, appears to be some bedding on the floor. We have three cases here, all containing guitars. It looks like a duffel bag full of toiletry items that would appear to be belong to a male subject due to the cologne and so forth inside. This closet is also fairly barren. Looks like there are 2 samurai swords inside the closet, empty laundry basket, another basket containing some odds and ends of some sort. Nothing else in this room. That is the entire aspect of the home upon entry.
And Detective, did you search or did you do a walkthrough of any other apartments that day with your body cam?
I did a walkthrough of the apartment 174, which is right next to 175, would have been Melanie Boudreau's apartment.
And can you remind the jury who Melanie Boudreau is and her relationship to Lori Vallow?
It would have been Lori's niece.
Yeah. Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 144A. Yeah, a copy has been provided to the court and counsel.
All right, thank you.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 144A?
Yes.
What is it?
This would have been my documentation of the apartment 174 when I did a walkthrough after entry had been made into it as well.
All right. When you went into 174, was there anything that stood out to you?
Well, this particular apartment appeared to still be someone was residing there. The clothes were in the closet. There was a car in the garage. So it appeared to me that someone was still residing there. Something that struck me as odd is as we were searching. So this was Melanie Boudreau's apartment. At one time, she was married to Brandon Boudreau. I noticed that on the counter, she had a, if you will, a 3-ring binder with those clear plastic organizers in there. And I thought it was odd because I knew they were divorced, that she had numerous of his credit cards and driver's license in there.
And is that all captured on the body cam that you took as you did a walkthrough?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 144A, is that a true and accurate representation of the body cam you took on that walkthrough?
Yes.
Did you initial that drive and have you reviewed it?
I have reviewed and I initialed it after viewing.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 144A be entered into evidence.
No objection.
All right, Exhibit 144A is admitted.
And may I publish?
You may.
Should be. I hope it's still empty. Okay. I don't think so. Okay, this is apartment number 174, which is just south of 175. This is the initial walkthrough of the apartment. This door was hit on a no-knock warrant. This is the door, and the door jamb was destroyed upon the entry. No one came to the door. The front room, kitchen area. Looks like there is a couple of electronics, possible some kind of purse here. Here is looks like several credit cards with name of Brandon Prodexio. Pronouncing that wrong. Also a driver's license out of Arizona for Brandon. Coming around more.
Detective, you recently testified about finding a large amount of credit cards for Brandon Boudreau.
Yes.
I believe there you may have mispronounced his name. Is that?
I surely did.
But it was Brandon. I'm not saying that to make fun of you.
It is the same.
For purposes of identity, it was Brandon Boudreau. Okay. And Your Honor, I'm done with this exhibit.
Okay.
And Detective, just for clarity from yesterday, you've testified that J.J. Vallow was not located that day, was he?
He was not.
To your knowledge, did the search for J.J. Vallow ever extend into a search to include Tylee Ryan as well?
Yes,
And Detective, you testified before that you have some experience in cellular devices.
that is correct.
Did you participate or write warrants for any cellular or digital evidence in this case?
I did.
Did you prepare a list of the different warrants you prepared in anticipation of testifying at trial?
Yes.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding the different warrants you wrote and to be able to explain why you wrote them and what you obtained from them?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe it would aid the jury in understanding your testimony about the nature of the evidence you collected?
I believe it would help them understand what we did and why.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 296. And I don't know if the court or counsel has a copy of this yet.
I have a courtesy copy.
Okay, and I believe he does.
Thank you.
I do have a copy. Thank you.
Detective, is this the list I was just speaking to you about?
It is.
Is it a true and accurate representation of the list you created?
Yes, I prepared this list.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes only, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 296 be entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Okay. Exhibit 296 is admitted as a demonstrative exhibit.
And before I go there, Your Honor, or Detective, I want to clarify with you really quick. Did you ever find evidence that Brandon Boudreaux lived in apartment 174 in Rexburg, Idaho?
No.
May I publish Exhibit 296?
Yes.
Detective, approximately how many search warrants did you obtain for electronic or digital evidence in this case?
20.
Are they listed on this list?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell us about the first item on that list?
Yes. So 2019-77 was the first warrant that I had wrote. This was for the known phone number that we had originally had contact with Lori Vallow. After our original contact, however, she wouldn't take any calls after that. But so I wrote this warrant to Verizon Wireless to get information on her and anything that Verizon might have that would aid us in trying to locate her and her children.
All right. And did you obtain any useful information from that warrant?
Yes.
What was that?
So just if I may, just kind of give an overview of, if I may, from 77, can you lower it down past 53 just a little bit? So 77 through 61, just so if I may, this was all pre-finding the children. So these were all done in attempt to locate where the kids were or Lori was. And so I just wanted to clarify that these are going to be all grouped, if you will, in that aspect.
Thank you. And since you brought that up, the numbers on the left, is there a method to the numbering of those warrants?
So at least where I'm from, Madison County,
Sure.
the way warrants are issued, the first number has to do with the year, then the dash, and then the second number is what warrant was in accession, whether it me, someone else that got a warrant. So it'd be at the first year, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on throughout the year.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And so going back to the top of the list, what useful information did you obtain from that warrant?
So as a result of that warrant, it led to the next warrant because we were able to get a return from Verizon saying, these are some of the names and email addresses that would have been associated with that first number. So then, as it shows here, we wrote 86 in 2019 because we were able to obtain these email addresses. As you can see, 3 of them were Gmail accounts, which in some ways is very useful to us in trying to identify and find somebody.
Okay. How does that help you find someone?
So, kind of in a nutshell, anytime someone uses social media or a Gmail account or has any kind of account that would associate them with the internet, and Google is very good at keeping track of people. And so when you use a Gmail account or you're logged on to your Google account, they are very good at keeping record of what you do and when you do it and where you are. So Gmail's, and that goes for other mail accounts as well.
In regard to Google accounts, and is it true that Google runs several different apps that can be on a phone?
Yes.
Right. And you testified Google keeps track of people, or I shouldn't say of people, but of the devices that their apps are loaded on.
Yeah, they keep track of the accounts that people set up, who they are, or who set them up. Vital information that might help us especially in this case, if there were other phone numbers associated with that Google account. Google will package those under, if you will, that Gmail account, addresses, credit cards, things like that. Google will, if you log in from a device to your account, whether it's a computer, cell phone, whatever, they'll make note of that and link that to your account.
And in terms of the Google location services that they keep track of, are you aware if an individual can opt out of the geolocation tracking?
So there is an option through Google. If you so desire, you can turn off your location services, which would keep Google from keeping that information.
So under search warrant 2019-86, you have, can you read the names of the 4 accounts you searched?
Yeah, so in blue here, the result was Homer J. Maximus at gmail.com, associated with Alex Cox. Lowly Time Forever at gmail.com, Lori Vallow. Lori for Style at iCloud.com, also Lori Vallow. And Chad.Daybell at gmail.com, associated with Chad Daybell.
To your knowledge, were you able to obtain Google geolocation data from any of those accounts?
Yes.
Which ones?
Homer J. Maximus would be the one that, if you will, gave us the most information.
Okay. Let's go to the next warrant. What was that written for?
So, again, we're still in the process of trying to locate children, JJ and Tylee.
Sorry. So search warrant was done for a P.O. box we had located for Lori in Sugar City, which is an adjoining town to Rexburg. In that mail, we found a Verizon bill. Upon opening this Verizon bill, we found several phone numbers listed under the name of Lori, Alex, Charles Vallow, Tylee, that we didn't have before. So our thinking in this was to, again, write another warrant to Verizon for these numbers to try and get additional information so we could find these children.
Right. Was anything useful obtained from that?
Yeah, it just solidified a lot of what we had already done, numbers that were associated, and we're able to eliminate quite a few of those phones as that they had been surrendered, if you will, or turned to somebody else and no longer had anything to do with them. This count had kind of gone into default because of lack of payment.
Okay. Let's go down to 2020-09.
Okay.
You can describe for the jury what that warrant was for.
Okay. So again, you're going to see the Homer J. Maximus, but so when these apartments were abandoned, 175 particularly, no one ever returned to them after the 27th. So the landlords, if you will, or owners, went in to clean out all the stuff that was in there. And when they were in there, they had located in some of the stuff, two abandoned devices that they thought best to turn over to us. So this is a result of looking at those devices. The new one that you would see with Alex Cox as the raylamar@gmail.com.
And then again, Homer J. Maximus is that
Right.
Homer J. Maximus again?
Yes.
Tell us about warrant 2020-15.
Okay, so this was originally written. If you notice the second number over in this warrant, a typo, I put it in parentheses here, was put 47 when it said it should have been 74. So those two numbers were just crossed. Anyway, what this means with a tap and trace warrant, we still could not get answers on where the kids were, and couldn't get information from Lori.
And let me interrupt you really quick. I apologize. Do you recall approximately when you submitted this warrant, 2020-15?
Would have been fairly early in January, I believe.
Of 2020?
2020, yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and if you can explain what a pen register tap and trace
Sure.
is.
So what this does is we request this on these numbers because we believe we could associate these with the parties. The company, which would have been Verizon here, would send us live data, not necessarily conversations, but where the phones would be, if you will, hitting off of cell phone towers to give us a general location of where they might be at this time, live, if you will.
Okay. So is it fair to say it's used to try and track a person's current location? Or let me rephrase that, a device's current location.
Yes.
And you did that trying to find those phone numbers that are listed there. Do you know who those phone numbers belonged to?
So, yeah, this is going to be a long and short of this, but because it's going to come into connection with 2020-20 as well, because if I may kind of explain that.
Sure, please do.
So the 15 was wrote to Verizon Wireless. Well, ultimately, two of those numbers, Verizon said they're not our numbers. You're going to have to also get a hold of T-Mobile. So two of those numbers in 2020, as you see, T-Mobile Wireless, were in the above warrant. However, we had to write a new warrant for T-Mobile. So they're both in conjunction, if you will. Okay, now that I've explained that, ask that question again.
So the numbers that are on, and I'm actually going to say between 2020-15 and 2020-21, who do those numbers belong to?
So we believe those numbers to be associated with Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, Tylee Ryan, Chad Daybell.
If you were looking for Tylee and JJ, why were you looking at Chad Daybell's location?
Well, I mean, Lori and Chad were married. We couldn't get a hold of either one of them. We couldn't get any straight answers as to where they were. We couldn't get any answers as to where the children were. So they were associated.
And I'm going to just kind of back up just really briefly. When you obtain a warrant, how do you obtain a warrant?
So we have to enter what is called a probable cause affidavit to the court on why we want it and what we believe we will find once that warrant is signed by a judge. So with that probable cause affidavit, a warrant for what we are looking for is presented to the court. The court reviews that. If they feel like our probable cause is just, a judge will sign the warrant, allowing us to move forward with serving the warrant on whoever it is we're serving it on.
All right. So the warrants are signed by the judge.
That's correct.
Okay. On these pen register / tap and trace warrants, were you able to locate Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow through those warrants?
Yes, we were able to locate the devices which we believe to be with them in Hawaii.
Warrant number 2020-25. Can you tell us what you found or what was searched and found on that?
Okay, so upon finding where they were, we had investigators, FBI, go to Hawaii, Kauai, if you will, and they were able to locate Chad and Lori. A warrant was obtained to gather evidence from their residence where they were staying there and their vehicle. This is the result of 10 electronic devices that were taken from their rental car that they were both in. And so that is what the 10 electronic devices is for, why we obtain warrants.
And did you search all these devices yourself, or did other agencies and other personnel help in searching some of these devices?
So yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because all these warrants, when you get back a return from Google, Verizon, you have to understand these are thousands of pages long, thousands of records, thousands of pages. And for just one person to go through all that, and especially in the short time frame we were trying to do this to find kids, is simply impossible. And so a lot of the returns that I got from this, I would give out to FBI, other investigators for review, so we could try and go through a large record in a short amount of time.
And we'll return back to some of the things that were found on that in just a bit in 2020-25. Can you tell us about 2020-30?
Yeah. Would you mind just moving that down just a little bit? Thank you. So this again was another tap and trace warrant on a phone that we found. You have to understand, by this time, like I stated at the beginning, we still had no answers even after contacting Chad and Lori as to where the children were. We weren't getting any answers. No one was talking to us. So again, with this tap and trace warrant, we were still looking for children. And we were trying to establish if this device was anywhere around the children. So that's the reason for this one.
And the next warrant, 2020-31.
So this again came from, this would be Melanie Boudreau's apartment. Devices found there, and this would have been apartment 174. So this was a warrant for us to go ahead and search the actual devices that we had taken from that residence. I should note here that at this time, our current software that we use for forensics, I should say not me, but the FBI was taking care of these. The phones were not able to be broke into at this time, only the tablet. So that's still looking for children.
And you mentioned that. So if we can just talk about it really quick. Just because you have a device, does that mean you can automatically hook it up to your Cellbrite or another forensic software and read it?
Well,
Does that happen
that's
automatically?
kind of a two-part thing. Yeah, we got to have a warrant.
Right.
And so forensic software is always slightly behind a phone, if you will. If so, whenever a phone comes out with new technology, forensic people who develop software are always taking the new device and trying to figure out, if you will, how it ticks, but it's not till it comes out. So as far as these phones, software hadn't been updated that we could break into the passcodes on these. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. So, and just, I guess to clarify, just because you physically have the phone and you can hook it up to your software, that doesn't mean you can always get into the device.
That's right.
Can you tell us about 2020-46?
So we were able to establish that these were two different numbers belonging to Melanie Boudreau. And, you know, as far as at this time, we didn't feel like she was being cooperative either. We knew that.
Judge, I'm going to object at this time. I've been somewhat relaxed, but I need some foundation for him to be able to make these kinds of statements.
Mr. Wood, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. Approximately when did you obtain this warrant for the two numbers for Melanie Boudreau?
It would have been probably later spring. I can't give you an exact date without seeing the warrant itself.
And that's okay, but it was later spring of 2020.
Yes.
And at this time, had you found, or not you, but had law enforcement found Tylee and JJ?
No.
And were you trying to obtain information from Melanie Boudreau about the whereabouts of Tylee and JJ?
Yes.
Why would she have that type of information? Or why, let me rephrase that. Why would you think that she might have that type of information?
Well, in interviews, we felt like she.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There still hasn't been sufficient foundation. He's referring to other interviews. He's not identifying them, and I'm not even sure he participated in those interviews.
I'll sustain that, Mr. Wood.
Okay. Did you ever participate in an interview with Melanie Boudreau?
I only had interaction with her when she was being interviewed in obtaining her phone to do a forensic on it. I had to make contact with her during that interview for that purpose.
And Judge, could I have some date, time, place, foundation, please?
I'm waiting for an objection.
Objection.
It's true. Yeah, it's not an objection, Mr. Pryor. So now there's an objection based on foundation. Mr. Wood, if you'd like to respond.
Approximately when did you meet with Melanie Boudreau?
This would have been early on. I don't recall exactly the date. I remember it being in the interview room at the Rexburg Police Department.
Would it have been early 2020?
Yes.
And before Tylee and JJ had been found?
Yes.
Right. And was that when you obtained these the phones that were subject to 2020-46?
No. Well, so these phones were obtained when we did the search on the 27th.
And I'm actually going to use this opportunity right now. There's multiple ways to obtain digital evidence, correct?
Correct.
Is one of those ways to collect the evidence off of the device itself?
Yes.
Right. Can you also obtain evidence from the phone carrier?
Yes.
And when I say that, I mean like Verizon, T-Mobile.
Yes.
And then can you obtain evidence from app companies that of apps that are on a phone.
And Judge, at this point, the objection is going to be leading.
Overruled.
So as I earlier stated, with the Gmail accounts and so forth, yes, they keep a lot of information that would have been shared with a phone, a computer. They also keep records that wouldn't be on the device. It would be in their database with Google or whoever.
Thank you. So on warrant 2020-46, it appears, who is that warrant written to?
Can you clarify who?
Who was that warrant served on?
Melanie Boudreau.
And did it go to Verizon Wireless as well?
Yes.
Right. And were you asking Verizon Wireless for information associated with those two phone numbers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you find anything on those that aided you in finding JJ and Tylee?
Other than associations with the other email accounts and phone numbers that we've already gone through.
Okay. Tell me about the next warrant, 2020-53. Approximately when did you write that?
So this would have been after Lori and Chad were served in Hawaii. In searching the vehicle, there was a notebook found. This notebook had pages of, if you will, user accounts and email accounts and so forth. There was a page in there from the car that all these email addresses were listed, and therefore we again obtained additional warrants for some of these in hopes to locate the children.
At the bottom of 2020-53, what do you have written there?
So a lot of this was still during, not making excuses, but pandemic time. So we never got a response from Google on this warrant after months. And so yeah, they never responded.
2020-61, the word schmule is written. What is that?
So that was, we found that a lot of these devices had this app in common. It's a music sharing app. However, in the music sharing app, there was the ability to communicate through, if you will, text type messages. So again, we were just looking for any clues that would help lead us. And so this was a warrant written to Smule to see if they had any information that would help us.
And I believe you testified earlier that the warrants written up through 2020-61 were looking for the children.
That is correct.
What changed after 2020-61?
Because after this time, we would have been past the time where June 9th, where we located the children on Chad Daybell's property.
What was the purpose of 2020-74?
So this is in conjunction with the FBI, with their CAST team.
And do you know approximately when it was that warrant was obtained?
This would have been, I believe, within a couple weeks after the 9th.
When you say the 9th, can you?
Sorry, June 9th, 2020.
And just for purposes of clarity, what event happened on June 9th, 2020?
That is the day that we located the children's bodies on the Daybell property.
Okay. So going back to that warrant, what was the purpose of that warrant with the FBI?
So again, we hadn't, yes, we found the children. However, we didn't have other answers of why and whatnot. And we were still looking at trying to determine devices that would have been located on that property that could have been involved in the children being there. So the purpose in this was to take specialized equipment onto the property close to the locations where the children were found and get signal strengths from cellular towers and be able to precisely say what tower, what the signal strength was and so forth. The FBI did that part. I was with them. However, I was just really the one that obtained the warrant and served it at the property.
All right. And then they did the work on that.
That is correct.
The next warrant, 2020, it looks like -76 and 77.
Yeah, so that's two different warrants, but
When approximately were those obtained?
I'm sorry.
When approximately were those obtained?
That would have been also shortly within a few weeks after the children were found on that June 9th date.
Okay. And it looks like that's a warrant for a geofence.
That is correct.
Can you
There's a couple
explain?
different ones.
Okay. Can you explain for the jury what a geofence is?
So again, the theory here is as I explained in the previous one, we're trying to find out, if you will, devices that would have been in the vicinity on certain dates and times where we believe the children had been buried on the property. So when I say a 250 meter range of the center of the properties in this, so if you were to take and put a dot and then draw a circle 250 meters out, which is approximately like 2.5 football fields in circumference. And so our thinking was we had dates we believed, we had times we believed. We wanted to try and find anyone who had any significant time in those areas during those dates and those times. And that's both for 202 North, 1900 East, which was Chad's property, and 565 Pioneer Road, number 175, which is where Lori was. So we're just looking for commonality. We were looking, are we missing anything? Is there anybody else involved here that we need to be looking at? And that's why we wrote this, is to see if there's other people we need to be looking at besides who we already were looking at.
And so that warrant was written to Google, correct?
That is correct.
So just to help the jury understand, is when you say a geofence, are you looking for Google location data within that area?
Yes, that would just be what Google records have, not Verizon, not anybody else, just Google, because that's a very common thread that everybody uses. So yeah, it was just to Google.
And again, we had talked earlier about opting out of Google location services. If someone, to your knowledge and experience, if someone had their Google location data turned off, would they show up in that geofence?
Not by Google records, no.
Okay. So tell us the process of obtaining that warrant and how you obtained that information.
On the return?
Yes.
So you have to understand, especially, well, like Chad's property is more rural, but where Lori's property is it's high density. And so when you ask for this, Google sends you thousands of pages of people that have passed through your fence, your 250 meter fence, whether they are on the road, whatever. So it's massive amounts. But Google doesn't tell you who they are in these warrants. Google assigns everybody a number. It's a Google association number is what it's called. And so everybody who has an account or whatever has a number associated with them. So when we get this return, the return shows, if you will, this device passed through there, was in that area for, this is just an example,
Okay.
5 seconds. And you can see as it maybe passes on the road in that fenced area. But it doesn't say that was John Doe. It says this was Google account number, user number, this with a large digit number. So this warrant didn't establish who these people were, is I guess what I'm getting at, just a number associated with them.
And then did you do a follow-up warrant based on that initial return from Google?
So the theory was to take that warrant and all that information, plug it into a system, and then try and narrow it down to people who would have been in that area or both areas in common during those timeframes. So, so after plugging all that information in, we came down to possibly 12 devices that we felt could be, if you will, devices of interest. And so, am I explaining that okay? That, and then we wrote that would have led to 2021-10 here.
All right. And explain what you asked for in 2021-10.
Okay, so 2021-10 would have been us saying, okay, these are some Google numbers that are of interest to us from our fence account. And because they were either in the area for a significant amount of time, and maybe these people were involved or could have seen something or whatever during these critical times. And so us writing this warrant was to say, can you please tell us from these Google account numbers, can you please tell us who they are so we can, if you will, get in touch with them or look at them as people of interest.
All right. And so, and what were you provided? What did you learn from that?
Well, so after writing this warrant, we didn't receive a response from Google. And after much time had passed, I was finally able to get a hold of someone with Google, which is almost impossible to talk to a live person. But I finally get a hold of them, and their advice to us was to shrink our search a little bit more, that they felt looking for 12 was too broad. And so that's why they hadn't responded to our warrant. So, which at that time,
Follow up on that?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak.
No.
Did you follow up on that?
Yes. So at that time, we lessened it by 2 when we wrote 2021-20 for 10 devices that we felt were of interest. And we did receive from Google at that time the account holders' information on those 10 devices or 10 accounts.
Okay. And what did you learn from that?
Well, so out of the 10 account holders, background checks were done, checks for associations with Lori, Chad, Alex. We could never find, other than Alex himself, any of the other people that would have had association with these 2 other parties.
Okay. So just to clarify, you wrote these warrants for these geofence areas around Chad Daybell's property and where Lori Vallow lived, correct?
Yes, on those particular dates, yes.
And you were looking for numbers that had some commonality between the 2 locations.
Right.
Right. And at the end of the day, the only number you found was Alex Cox's.
That's right.
Okay. Just briefly, can you tell us about the last warrant you have on that list?
Yeah, so this was a warrant so the children had been found. We were just trying to make sense of everything we had, and we thought it would be a good idea because we had been in the moment, if you will, of this whole investigation, to have an independent person, an expert, go through the electronic devices that we had already been through to see if, number one, we had missed anything, and number two, get a fresh set of eyes that hadn't been so involved in the case to get an outside perspective into the case. And so this warrant was wrote for several of the devices that we had already searched, to take them out to Pennsylvania and have an independent expert go through what we had been through.
Did you learn any new information from that process?
So the answer to that question would be no, nothing new was obtained that we hadn't already discovered.
Okay. Detective, I want to just talk to you briefly a little bit about some of the things you found when you did your searches. I listed on Exhibit 296, and you've spoken about Lolly Time Forever.
One of Lori's Gmail accounts, yes.
And did you ever did you specifically look at that account yourself?
Lolly Time?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Did you ever have occasion to look at the search history on it?
Yes.
Were there any searches that stood out to you through your investigation?
Yes, there were a few that brought me concern.
Right. Was there a search on August 25th that interested or that was of note to you?
Yes.
What was that for?
So on August 25th, the user of this account, which the name on the account was Lori Vallow, the user of this account on the 25th looked up wedding rings made of malachite, visited some sites with that. At one point, the user attempted to make a purchase of 2 of those rings, and they were basically silver with the green malachite through the middle of them. Each one was an 11.5 size ring, and the other one was a 4.25. And a purchase was attempted for a total of $808 on that date.
Are you aware if that purchase was successful?
No, I was later able to find out that the credit card used had failed, and so the purchase was never completed.
And on this same account, Lolly Time Forever, was there anything that you noticed in the search history on September 20th?
September 20th, which was 3 days before we believe JJ.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's non-responsive.
I think he's just providing information for the answer, Your Honor.
And it's non-responsive information.
It's overruled. You can answer.
So on the 23rd, when we believe JJ was deceased, on the 20th, knowing, the user of the account looked up the definition and meaning of possessed.
Okay. And to clarify, I don't know if I did this before, Lolly Time Forever, who was that account associated with?
Lori Vallow.
And then was there anything that stuck out to you in the search history on that account, Lolly Time Forever, on September 30th of 2019?
Yes. So on September 30th, which would have been 2 days before Brandy Boudreau's attempted shooting, the user of this account looked up how to remove the back seat from a Jeep Wrangler. The user of that account then accessed a YouTube video on how to do it, and that video was accessed.
And why was that of note to you?
Because 2 days later, gray Jeep Wrangler with Texas license plates was noted as being the vehicle that a gun was shot at Brandy Boudreau from the rear of that vehicle in Arizona.
Is that in fact the same Jeep that you found, that law enforcement found in Rexburg?
Yes, on the 4th.
4th of November?
Yes.
2019?
That's correct.
Did you do any searches on the account of chad.daybell@gmail.com?
Yes,
Did you look at that search history?
I did.
Why did you do that?
Again, at this time, we were still looking for children.
And was there anything in the search history of chad.daybell@gmail.com that caught your attention?
Yes.
What was that?
It would have been September 8th, 2019, the day before we believe Tylee was
Judge, I'm not sure I heard the year. I may have heard that wrong.
2019.
2019. Thank you.
And what did you find?
The user of Chad Daybell looked up what the wind direction was going to be for the following day, which would have been the 9th.
And in the course of your investigation, why was that of note to you?
Judge calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Because we believe on the 9th was the day that Tylee was, her body was burned and buried in the fire pit behind Chad's house.
Detective, we had talked about when we were going over your list of warrants under 2020-25, about 10 electronic devices seized from Chad and Lori in Hawaii.
Yes,
Did you search any of those devices yourself?
I did.
Did you have occasion to search a PNY USB flash drive?
I did.
What did you find on that flash drive?
Upon initial looking at the flash drive, found several wedding photographs from December 5th of Chad and Lori's wedding in Kauai, Hawaii.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
Would have been December 5th. Or sorry, November 5th.
Okay, thank you. Tell us how you searched that device. Did you just plug it into a computer or did you do something else?
I used forensic software to search the device. One of the reasons we use forensic software is because it is set up in such a way that anything we do looking at the device won't, if you will, disturb its original form. So we use forensic software to search this device.
Okay. And was there anything else of note to you on that device?
Yes.
What was that?
So if I may, just a little bit here, at first glance, if you were to plug this flash drive into, say, a regular computer, the only thing that you would have been able to see on this flash drive would have been the wedding photographs. However, when you plug this type of device in and use forensic software, you were able to obtain and see anything that may have been, might still be there, deleted, so forth and so on, that you wouldn't be able to see with a regular computer.
Okay. And did you find anything that had been deleted?
Yes.
What was that?
I don't know the precise number, but it appeared to be photos of Chad, Tammy, their kids, if you will, a history. It appeared to me that possibly Chad and Tammy's courtship to their marriage to their kids being born to their kids growing up, just basically a family album, I guess would be the best way to say it, that had all been deleted.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 61A through 61S, and I believe a courtesy copy has been given to the court and counsel.
All right. A through S, Mr. Wood.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
There's more to come in the trial of Chad Daybell. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of our continuing coverage right here from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.